What's up, everybody? And welcome back to the Sean Lowery Show podcast. I have a special guest with me today, Dom the Hypnotist. He has worked with athletes in the NFL, UFC, Olympic athletes. He's also worked with CEOs, salespeople, entrepreneurs all over the world. He's been discussed on Joe Rogan, ESPN. I'm excited to talk to him about this interesting topic. Dom, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Sean. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. I love the topic of the mind. The way that you can train it to become smarter, the way that you can use it as a tool and understand how it works. And I'm fascinated in that stuff. But hypnosis and hypnotism, which is your specialty. I'm sure there's some people, and I guess I might fall into this category, that don't know a lot about it, that have the connotation of it's like, you are getting sleepy, you're getting sleepy. Right. And I don't know, like a psychic or something that has a negative connotation put in that category, but I'm sure that's not the case. I'm ready to learn more about it. So why don't you explain to people a little bit about that, a little bit about what you do, who you are?
Yeah. So, I was kind of interested in that whole realm of hypnosis and NLP and all that stuff from probably when I was 18, 19 years old. But, I would watch the different videos and you see people doing stage shows, or you see them doing rapid inductions, where's the ones where you like grab their hand and you say sleep. And then the guy's all of a sudden just like out. Right. And I always thought either one, it's fake and there's like paid actors or something like that. Or if it is real, it's some type of gift or something that takes like years and years and years of training. And you got to be like basically like a monk or something to figure it out. And so I never really looked that much into it. I would always just watch it and be like, oh, this is really cool. And then I had all the same sort of, I'd say preconceived notions about it, like hypnotists, they worship the devil and this is black magic, all kind of stuff as well. And so fast forward, when I first moved to Vegas, which was about 4 years ago, one of the very first things we did, like the first month, is we went to a hypnosis show here on the Strip. And so, we go and we're watching, and I'm kind of like, okay, what's going to happen here? Is this going to be something where it almost like, kind of like magic shows or something like that, where the crowd is in on it type of thing, or there's like specific people that are planted or whatever. So the guy goes through the whole thing, and long story short, I'm looking at these people on stage, and they're from all different walks of life, and just everybody was different. And I could see with my own eyes that they weren't acting. Like you could just tell they were not, it was real. And it seemed as if they were under some type of spell or like mind control or whatever. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, wow, this is actually a real thing. But I didn't know how it worked or how it happened.
Did people fall asleep and stuff like that at this show?
No, what happens is, so this is what they do. And I actually just recently learned how to do this. So I just recently got certified to certify other people in hypnosis. So part of your qualification of that is you have to do a stage show. Now, I don't plan on doing any stage shows or anything. It's just not my cup of tea, but that's just part of the prerequisites to pass. So what they basically do is they'll invite like 40 people up on stage. And they already know, so everybody can do hypnosis. It's just different levels on how deep someone will go. So you have like, 20-30% of the population that will just go into a basic light trance, which everybody can do, but that's kind of the first stage. And that would be the same as like daydreaming, or even, you ever been driving before it, and then all of a sudden you kind of snap out of a trance, and you just realize like, wow, who's just driving my car for the past 10 minutes, or you miss your exit or whatever. Yes. So everybody can do that, but there's like a certain percentage of people that kind of stay in that realm. That's about as deep as it goes. Then there's about 50% or so of the population that can go into a deeper state of trance, which is sort of that area where you're, like right before you go to sleep and you kind of drift off and then you snap back to it and you think to yourself, like, was I just sleeping?
Yes.
Or did I just go to sleep? You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's kind of where that's where a lot of the personal development hypnosis is done, is in that state, highly suggestible.
Okay.
And then the deepest level is what's called somnambulism. So somnambulism is like where it seems as if the hypnotist has like mind control over the people. So there's only, typically about 20% or so of the population will allow themselves to get to that mindset. So they'll bring up 40 people on stage and then slowly, start to pull people off who aren't going that deep. And then they'll end up with like 8, 10, 12 people who are able to do it. And it's usually people who are a little bit more on the outgoing side. Like they would, the type of people you give them a couple drinks and then they kind of become the life of the party, and they're
really?
Yeah. So those are usually the people that go up on stage. So yeah, from there, I just whatever, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think I wanted to do it for a living. But then my mom, she went to an NLP course. And then in the NLP course, they teach you how to do hypnosis.
Can you just say what NLP is for people who might not know?
Yeah. So NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It was developed in I believe the 70s by Richard Bandler and John Grinder. It's like what Tony Robbins is really famous for. And there's like a bunch of other people like that who use NLP. But it's basically, there's so many different things that you can do with it, depending on like what you want to do, whether it's helping people get rid of phobias or bad eating habits or just things like that.
Quitting nicotine and cigarettes.
Yeah. Quitting smoking and if somebody is like, I remember when I ended up going to this course, I had a bad habit of drinking those white monsters.
Dude, I probably had 2 of those today. I love those.
Oh, did you? I used to be the same way. I would go get the 2 for $3 or whatever.
Yeah, they train you. They train you to buy 2. Yeah, I started to buy cases of them because to save money.
And then you think like, oh, I'll buy this one and I'll just drink one today, and then I'll drink the other one tomorrow. But then you just end up drinking both of them the same day. So
yes.
So yeah, and man, I did the little technique, and it was the weirdest thing because like you just, you instantly, I just had no desire and no connection to wanting. And I used to literally drink them every single day, sometimes twice a day, but for sure 1 a day, every day. And then
is it the caffeine element or just the association with that drink?
Definitely the caffeine for sure, but it was just, I love the taste of that drink.
They're so good. They're so delicious.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like the best,
crisp, refreshing energy. They pitch that they have zero calories, zero sugar.
All the angles. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then like a little 7-minute technique. And then all of a sudden, I just had no desire. And I probably didn't drink one of those for a good 4 or 5 months. And then one day I drank it again, but then like now I'll have it like once every 2 weeks or something like that.
I think that's how you're supposed to probably.
Yeah. So I don't mind, like if that's where I'm at, cool. I don't need to go back and redo the technique for that, because I'm only doing it once a week or once every 2 weeks. But before it was just, it was a problem, so
that's right. So
yeah. What's that? That's where you're at? Yeah, yep. I know. Right. Yeah. So here's the thing though. In order for the technique to work, the person that you're doing it with has to really actually want to do it, because if they don't want to do it, it won't work. So you could do the same exact technique with 2 different people, one of them that really, really wants to change and the other one they really don't. And it won't work with the guy who really doesn't, even though you do the same exact thing. So part of the reason why I wanted to quit is I got to a point where literally I was drinking so many energy drinks so consistently that I remember one day I got just the most intense stomach ache I've ever had in my entire life. And my intuition and like something was telling me it's from drinking these energy drinks. And what it felt like is like almost like I was drinking them and there was just so much acid in my stomach that it was just eating the inner lining of my intestines, and it was just like, anyway. So there was that motivation of like, oh God, I don't want to feel this anymore. So I had a reason to want to quit,
Gotcha.
That's how a lot of people quit like alcohol and all that kind of stuff. Right.
Right. I understand having a desire to want to quit something and it being difficult. Honestly, I'm not at the stage where I'm convinced that those are crushing me. My stomach's fine.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
If we did the technique, if you didn't really want to quit,
I don't really want to.
You already said something that I knew. I was like, oh no, you said, you said something like, I should probably do that.
I said, I'm in that boat. Yeah.
Yeah. So right away, that's like, oh, that's a sign that you're not really there yet.
Yeah,
but if you're like, oh man, really, dude, I've been wanting to quit drinking these things forever. Then you'd be the perfect candidate to quit. Right? So,
interesting.
But yeah, so my mom, she went to this course and she's like, yeah, they teach you how to do hypnosis. I was like, oh, wow, I've always been interested in that. And she said, yeah. And I was like, well, how long were you in this course? And it was just a 7-day thing. And I thought to myself, wow, in only 2 of the days you learn how to do hypnosis. And I was just thinking, I thought it would take, like I said, months and months and months of training to learn how to do it. She's like, no, you can literally learn it in 2 days. So fast forward, and a couple months later, Christmas rolled around, and then she got me an introductory course to hypnosis as a Christmas gift. So then I went to this course. It was in March, and I literally had zero expectation that I was going to do this for a living. I was just going to see what it was about, maybe clear out some of my own stuff I had going on in my mind. And then I went to it and I was just fell in love with it. And I was really good at it. I kind of just it was really natural for me to go through the process of doing it. And then 2 weeks later, I had an insurance business at the time, which I was sick and tired of doing anyways. And so I quit doing that. And then I started doing this full time, and haven't looked back since. So it's been good.
And you've been successful with it.
Yeah. Really, especially for the amount of time I've been doing it, for how many clients that I've actually worked with on a one-on-one basis. It's not very common. It can happen, but I just right away just started taking massive action. I just started working with tons of people, and just really quickly got my skills up. And then, when people have a good experience, they refer you to other people, right. And then it just became this whole thing. So,
right. Do you find there's a pretty big market for people interested in it? Or is it something that you have to sell to people who you identify that have issues that it could help with?
Usually there is a lot of people who are really curious about it. And because we've all kind of seen different stuff throughout our life, and you hear different, people talk about it. There's a ton of really highly successful athletes, that have used hypnosis. I know Mike Tyson, when he was younger, his trainer, Customato, was an amateur hypnotist. And he would hypnotize him all the time just to be a savage. He's talked about it on Rogan and other podcasts.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
And then Rob Dyrdek, I know Conor McGregor worked with Tony Robbins, doing some hypnosis and meditation stuff. And there's just tons and tons of people that have used it. But yeah, there's a lot of people that are really curious about it. And then there's some people are really curious and they really want to do it because maybe, they've tried other options with I take all this medication and I still, not only do I feel, still have the same problems, but it's even worse because now I'm on these meds all the time and I just don't really feel like myself, that kind of stuff. And then, as far as especially athletes, they're always looking for the edge. It's that 1% little thing that's going to make the difference between them winning and losing a fight or a football game or whatever. So there's a lot of people out there that are constantly wanting to get better.
Right. Is there a proclivity for high performers to go after this, or are they just the examples a lot of people use, but it's really,
yeah, man, you're using big words, man. Proclivity. I don't know what the hell that means. I'm not a freak genius.
Do high performers, are they more prone to want to use this tactic to improve themselves, or is it just something that everyone is kind of interested in, but high performers people use as an example because it's a cool name drop? Or does it apply to all the population equally as far as how?
Yeah, exactly. I would say it applies to everybody sort of equally. When it comes to, when it comes, a lot of people don't really know what it is. I wish that people really understood.
Right. There's an education gap in the market, probably.
Yeah. With some people, certainly, again, people were like me or like you, they think, oh, this is like black magic or, whatever. And then, but then there's other people who are a little bit more open to that side of whatever you want to call it, like spirituality or whatever. And they're more open to like natural modalities or meditations. And there's people that are already into that kind of stuff. And then, you go even deeper, you get into like remote viewing and all kinds of other cool stuff that even beyond hypnosis. And that stuff is really cool as well.
Remote viewing?
Yeah. You never heard of remote viewing before?
No.
Oh, okay. So if you ever, have you seen the movie Men Who Stare at Goats? You ever seen that one?
I hate when people ask me, have you seen the movie? Because if I haven't, I'm like, no. I have not seen that.
No. It was a movie that was like really big, maybe 10 years ago. Anyways, back in the 60s, the CIA, they had this program, a psychic like development program, where they had these guys who were claimed to be psychics or whatever. And basically what they would do is they can remotely view different objects, people, or whatever at anywhere in the world at any given time. So for an example, yeah, you never heard of this stuff?
Like they can tap in and see like the world through another lens.
Kind of exactly like
what?
So this is right now, you and I are remotely viewing each other, right?
Yes.
We're remotely looking at each other, whatever. And so how is this happening? What the hell is going on in the world that it's allowing? Where are you at right now?
I'm in Charleston, South Carolina.
So you're literally on the whole opposite side of the country, and I can see you as clear as day, as if we were almost sitting with each other in the chair.
Right.
So what's happening is my computer or your computer is sending out a signal through the ether. The ether is just the invisible space around us. And then my computer's picking up on that signal, and then it's presenting the pixels on the screen.
Yes.
So our brains have the ability to do that. It's not going to be as clear as what we're looking at here, but our brains have the ability to tap into the ether and download certain information and tap into certain intentions. So what these psychics would do, they were in this, like I said, the CIA, is they would say like, okay, they would say, here's Sean. This is what Sean looks like. Okay. I want you to describe to me where Sean is. And they would go into like their little meditative state. And then and it wouldn't be like, oh, Sean's at 123 Main Street, South Carolina or whatever. It would be more of like, I'm seeing Sean. He's in a room. Looks like there's a room. There's like, I don't know. I'm getting something like blue walls. There's some pictures on the walls, and he's got, I don't know, something about a microphone, and looks like he's in like a really big building. And so,
what?
I can't believe you've never heard about this. So if you go on YouTube and you look up like CIA remote viewing program, and you'll just get endless amounts of information.
And there was accuracy to it.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. It sounds unbelievable, right?
Yeah. My skeptical wall is very deep right now.
I know.
What?
Yeah.
Is that something? I mean, I understand how the brain's a powerful tool, and with a lot of experiences, and your intuition becomes really, really good in a specific field.
Yeah.
But what? How do they know? What is it? Are they smart? Are they experienced? Are they really good at this practice, or is it? Yeah. Are they lying?
No, I mean, there could be liars, right? There could be people.
I'm sure there's the psychic on the boardwalk.
Exactly. He could be lying. I don't know.
Right.
But it's not that they're smart or even gifted or anything. The thing is, we all naturally have this ability to certain degrees, right? Like I'm no expert at it, but basically what they're doing is they're tapping into, so we have different brain waves. So we have beta, alpha, theta, delta, right? Remember I was telling you like, oh, if you ever feel yourself kind of like drifting off, those are basically what's happening is your brainwave cycles are starting to slow down. So when you can tap into the alpha brainwave state, or even starting to get into theta, it allows you to tap into that information field. So if you ever, that's wild. Like I said, if you look up there's full blown, if you go on like CIA.gov and you go to the legitimate CIA website, not some like offshoot, it'll break down everything about remote viewing. They've done studies where, I don't know if you would call it studies, I would call it experiments, where they'll take a guy who's a remote viewer and a remote influencer, which is similar to remote viewing, it's a little bit different. And they'll have 30 people sign up for this, again, this exercise. They don't know exactly what's going on. All they know is they're signing up to have their blood pressure taken. Okay.
Gotcha.
Then what they'll do is they'll have the people in the other room have no idea that this guy is involved in this. All they know is I'm going to go in this room, hook up this machine and whatever. So when they go in this room, the guy will get a random chip, and the chip will say, raise their blood pressure, lower their blood pressure, or just keep it the same. So each one of these people come in one after another, and it's all randomized, right? 27 out of the 30 subjects where it either said, raise it, lower it, or don't do anything, was exactly spot on to the order in which they got the chips. So again, you go on the CIA's website, you look up cia.gov/remote viewing, or just Google remote viewing CIA, and it'll pull up everything I'm telling you here. And then even then it's still hard to believe, right?
Yes.
It just seems so unbelievable that it's just not even like, it doesn't seem it's possible in our reality, but it's totally real. Think about this. If I went back 100 years and I showed people my phone and I was like, look, I'm going to look up, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
They would literally think this is witchcraft, and this is like, they would think I was an alien. Right.
Of course, yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing. Here's a good test you can do to prove that this works. This won't convince you 100%, but it'll start to open you up to be like, oh, maybe there is something. So this is what you can do. When we're done with this podcast, sit down and just take out a piece of paper, and you can go through your phone or just go through your memory bank. And I want you to write down 5 names of people that you haven't talked to in a while. Now, you wanted to be people you have a rapport with, because if you have a rapport, then the connection will be easier. If it's somebody that, you guys had business together and the things were bad, that's not a good person to test. But do like somebody you haven't talked to in a month, somebody you haven't talked to in 3 months, 6 months, a year, and just write their names down on a piece of paper. And then throughout the next couple of days, just think about them and focus on them. And you'll be surprised. 3, 4, even all 5 of the people will randomly somehow, some way get in touch with you. And you'll be thinking, maybe that was a coincidence. I don't know about that.
I've heard about that experiment before. And I've heard people say it's just a chance. I mean, yeah, you thought about somebody, but how many other people did you think about that didn't call you? But okay. But I do believe in the subconscious mind changes your behaviors, which might lead to something that leads to that. So I'm open. I'm open to it.
Just test it. Again, you don't want to do it to your buddy you talk to every week, because
I get it. I understand the experiment. But if it's
somebody you haven't talked to in a year, and all of a sudden they message you, send you an email, you run into them in person,
then you believe it's the waves. It's the theta waves or the.
We're sending out thought forms into the ether, and then people are picking up on it. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to work every time, but just like right now, again, like on our cell phone, I send out the intention that gets picked up through the ether through another cell phone, and that person could decide to pick up.
That's explainable through satellites and technology and GPS locations and cell phone towers. That's explainable on paper. This other one is harder to explain, but 100 years ago, like you said,
you got to do it for yourself. And like I said, even when you do this, you still won't be convinced. It takes way more than that to be convinced.
And there's also no, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a way to kind of understand that, tap into it, maybe get a 1% of what's going on, but it's not a tool. You can't explain it all with a tool. You can't, just because you write down 5 names and over the next week you hear from one of those people, that doesn't mean that if you're dying, and you need them to help you, that's going to work. Right. It's a little more unexplainable.
Well, you've heard of like people where like, okay, I'll give you a prime example. So I have a 2-year-old daughter, right? Yes. And we have a little monitor or whatever, but to like see if she's in the other room sleeping or whatever. Literally more than 90% of the time, when I wake up in the morning, I won't even have to look at the thing. I'm like, oh, she's awake. Time to go get her. I don't got to look on the screen. More than 90% of the time, she is just waking up. Right.
Okay.
And you've heard of things like mothers all of a sudden feeling like
lift a car.
Something's wrong with my kid. What the hell's going on? And then boom, sure enough, something happened. Right. So yeah. And so how you can use this as a tool? Well, let's say you're a professional athlete. Okay. And you are going in to fight another human being who wants to knock you unconscious or break your bones or put you to sleep.
Right.
Well, that person is putting out certain intentions of what their game plan is. So if you can go in, now you might not know exactly every single thing that they're going to do, but you can get an idea of like, oh, this is what this guy's plan is. And you can pick up on the intention. And I've done this with people who are in the highest levels of MMA. And we get, I don't want to go too much into it, but because, obviously, like, you don't want to like give out everybody's secrets, right? But basically, we pick up like, okay, this person's going to do this, this, and this. And then sure enough, the fight unfolds and it's exactly how we predicted it. Now, part of that is knowing, like just having an understanding, right? Of like, okay, yeah, of course, certain people are going to do certain things.
Their last 10 fights, they came out with a right hook in the first minute.
For sure that 100%. But then there's even deeper things like, oh, he's going to do like a specific, almost like a specific type of move or a specific game plan. That's not just the normal thing that they do. So, and as far as like, using it as a tool, I mean, for the everyday person, it's not really something you're going to apply to every day. As far as like tapping it's basically using your intuition is what
intuition. That's where it is in the back of my head. It's intuition.
Yep.
Intuition is not perfectly explainable, but it's something that is everyone understands what it is.
Oh, absolutely. So when I first started learning this stuff, so I learned from a guy who was a former Navy SEAL for 24 years. He got out of the SEALs and he became a CIA security officer for 11 years. So this dude is 100% legit, badass, no messing around, So I hired him as a one-on-one coach. This was last year. And he taught me all these different things. So when I first started learning it, I remember one day me, my girl, her mom, and my daughter, we were going to go drive to the mountains over here. It's about an hour away. It's called Mount Charleston, right? So we leave my house at about 2:30 and we're on our way. And we hop in the car, like, oh, we got to get gas, right? So we're driving and maybe 50 to 100 yards away from the gas station, I just get this overwhelming feeling that comes over me and I can feel it like in my stomach. And I'm just thinking like, wow, this is weird. This feeling just like hit me out of nowhere. It's like in my chest and my stomach. I'm like, what is this? I never really felt this before. Maybe I did, but I wasn't aware of it. So we pull into the gas station and I'm like sitting there and I go, I don't know what this is, but I just have a really bad feeling. Like we just shouldn't go to the mountains. Like, I'm sorry, but something is just telling me don't go. Right. So they're like, okay, no big deal. So we went to the mall over here or whatever. So then the very next day, I had a call with this gentleman and I was telling him about it. I was like, man, it was so weird. We were going to go to the mountains. Right before we pull in the gas station, I just get this sense of like, don't go. And he goes, yeah, he's like, yeah, you're tapping into something. He goes, look, here's the thing. Sometimes you'll get that feeling and it'll immediately prove to you why you got that feeling, right? Like you'll know right away. Maybe you'll see an accident happen. Boom. You're like, oh my God, that was crazy. He goes, sometimes you may not know for a week. Sometimes you may not know for a month. He goes, sometimes you may not know for years or ever. You may not know ever.
Or you just never think about it again.
What's that?
Or maybe you'll just never think about it again.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe it'll just happen and you just follow it and you don't do anything.
Right.
And I was like, that's really weird. So we get off the call. I go on my phone and I'm looking at like Instagram stories. Right. And my buddy who lives on like the opposite side of town, he posts a picture and it says, oh, Mount Charleston's on fire. And it shows like the smoke and everything. And I was like, that's really weird. But I'm like, well, that doesn't really count because I was going to go yesterday. And if this fire started today, that wouldn't really be like dangerous for me. Right. So I'm like, well, let me see. And and you could Google this right now.
Mm-hmm.
I Googled Mount Charleston fire. When was the Mount Charleston fire started or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And literally it said, I remember exactly what it says, like June 28th, 2020, fire started at approximately 2:38 p.m. Okay. Now, mind you, as I mentioned, we left my house at 2:30, like 2:31 or 2:32. The gas station is literally 3-4 minutes down the road. So right when this was happening, a fire started on the whole opposite. I didn't know what it was per se. Now, we would have been safe, but here's what would have happened. We would have not listened to the radio. We would have listened to Pandora or something, not had no idea. We would have drove probably 50 minutes and then everything would have been shut off. We would have had to drive all the way back home, right? So there's little things like that.
You didn't see a flame or smoke or anything?
Zero. You couldn't see from where we were.
Right, about 50 minutes.
How the road is and everything. Nothing. Zero. Like I have no reason to lie. I'm not like, I don't get any. The only thing this does is make me look kind of crazy. So I get no benefit from telling you this. Right. So, but here's the thing though. Now that we're having this conversation, something will happen outside of what we already talked about, the whole writing the names down. And you'll be like, huh, that's really weird. We were just talking about this. And all of a sudden, like I got a weird feeling and then something happened or, whatever. So, and usually I don't even get into these conversations with people. Like I get a feel for where people are at, right? Like if a client comes to me and I'm like, okay, how deep can I really go with this person? How open are they to this information? And then, some people I've taught it to, most people, I don't even get into it because I'm just like, they're probably not really there or whatever. But yeah, man, it's amazing.
So what is your opinion on coincidence?
Like, you mean coincidence or you mean like deja vu?
I mean, coincidence, like the fact that you had that feeling, but there was a fire. Maybe they weren't related to the waves. Maybe it was just a coincidence. And how many times have you had a feeling that you took action on that nothing happened?
Yeah. It takes a lot of basically confirmation of what I'm telling you before you're convinced. So like when I started practicing this stuff, one of the first ways I would practice is I didn't tell anybody about it because I was like, again, I don't want to seem like I'm crazy. So I just kept it I didn't even tell my girl. I just kept it to myself. And, we'd be driving. And I'm like, you know what? I want to like test this out. Right. So I'd go into like my little meditative state. And then sure enough, I would, one way you do it is you can like Google, you can ask a question. And I would always ask myself, what's something I'm going to see on this trip that's completely random that would prove to me that this is actually real. Right. And you just get a random whatever, or like a pink car. This is one thing that happened one time. Pink car. Right. By this time I already had told my girl about it. And now I've taught her how to do it to some degree. But, whatever I would get, all of a sudden, somewhere along the trip, exactly whatever I popped in my head would happen. And I'm like,
so your waves picked up with the driver of a pink car's waves and that made them take a left instead of a right to pass you.
Exactly. It's picking up on intention, right?
How many times did you think about something and it didn't happen?
I would say 80% of the time it's accurate. And it might even be more.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm skeptical, but it could be coincidence. It's conscious mind. It's something in your conscious mind. Then you're aware of it. Then you're more likely to see it.
Yeah. That could totally, like your reticular activating system's picking up on it, right?
Yes.
But I remember one of the first times I did it, we're driving to the lake over here, and I was driving. I tapped in. I'm like, okay, I'm going to see. I got white car, white truck. Now how many white cars and white trucks are there? There's so many of them, right?
Yeah. And
then I also got, I got helicopter, but I got like helicopter and another helicopter. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So this, the part of the lake that we go to, one of the parts, it's kind of like it's a dirt road. It's a little bit bumpy. You're not going to see too many cars on it. Typically you might end up, it's called a Kingsman Wash. You might go there and there might not be anybody there. If there is, there's maybe like 2 cars there. Right. So we're driving, and then sure enough, on our way there, I see the white car, but I'm like, that's not a big deal. Like, how many white cars are? Okay, cool. And then sure enough, freaking helicopter. I'm like, well, maybe there's just whatever. I got lucky. And then when we get there, we actually are like sitting there in the little cove, another helicopter. I'm like, man, that's fucking weird. So then on the way back, this is like the first time I actually opened up and told my girl, I go, you know what's so weird? I'm doing this thing, remote viewing, where you like tap into and you can pick up on information before it happens, this, that, and the other. And I go, yeah, I thought about white car. I got a white car. I thought about the 2 helicopters. And I also thought about a white truck, almost like a Tacoma. And literally within 3, 4, 5 seconds, we're turning the corner or around and then boom, there's a white Tacoma. And she just looked at me like almost like, what the hell just happened?
All right. What have you thought about Barack Obama naked wearing a yarmulke doing the YMCA?
Yeah. Well,
you wouldn't see that.
That would be something completely random. I don't think that would even pop into my mind. Okay. So remember, I'm asking.
That's why I try to think of something super random.
Yeah. So I would ask a question like, okay, what's something completely random that I'm going to see on this trip that would prove to me that this is real?
Okay.
So
it's got to be in the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, man, so many times, like over and over. Like I said, when I first started doing it, it literally took me like 20 different times of being accurate, where I said, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then boom. And so she was like the first person that I told, right? And then after she started seeing it happening, like I was telling you, the pink car one time we were driving to go get something. I forgot that but I was driving. I was like, we're going to see a pink car on this trip. How random is a pink car? I mean,
it's pretty random.
I've probably seen 12 in my whole life or something, right?
Yes.
And then sure enough, on our way back from where we're going to go buy this microphone for my camera. And on the way back, I literally turned, and if I would have been 1 second too late, maybe 2 seconds too late, I would have saw him. Boom, pink car, right?
Okay. All right.
So
I'm open-minded. I'm open-minded.
I'm telling. So look into, again, I know it takes a lot of convincing for this stuff, because it's so hard to believe. It's like, how is this even possible, right? But if you look at like I said, go to CIA.gov, look into remote viewing.
Okay.
You could even look for remote influencing, and they'll have like their, what do they call that? Declassified documents. Okay. And then go on YouTube. I know some of this stuff gets taken down, but
really,
go on you. Oh, do you like, do you have an Amazon Prime account where you can watch movies and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to write this down and watch this movie. Okay.
All right, I'm taking notes.
So the movie is called Superhuman. It's called what's the second part? Damn. Just look up Superhuman.
Okay.
It's like Superhuman and then something. I forget the second part.
Superhuman, Amazon. It's called The Invisible Made Visible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm open-minded, and I'm gonna do all this stuff. I'm seriously gonna do it. I'm gonna write it down. So I'm constantly name dropping the person ahead of my podcast, my favorite author, Robert Greene, the author of 48 Laws of Power. Yeah. But he also wrote a book called Mastery, and he describes intuition as, if you spend 10 years becoming a master in your craft, say it's boxing, say it's race car driving, say it's traveling, whatever the thing that you become a master in that takes a good period of time and work, constant work, going through obstacles to overcome these things, going through boredom, continuing to master your craft. At that point, intuition is something that is much more real and possible. And I buy that for a boxer. If Mike Tyson's trainer has been around boxing for 30 years or something along those lines, then I buy the intuition and the waves and the believing what the opponent is going to do a little more, because that's their area of expertise. And that also relates to you and your daughter, or me and my mom, because that's something that you're very familiar with. But the pink car and the helicopter, I don't know how much you travel that road to have an intuition for it, but I believe in that, and I'm listening, and I'm gonna open my mind. I'm gonna do all those things you just said. Watch Superhuman, write down the 5 things, and I do
don't
believe.
expect you to believe me because it's hard to believe.
But I do believe there's the brain has these crazy powers that are unexplainable. So I'm always open-minded to stuff like this.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I agree with what you said about the Robert Greene thing. It's like, I don't even know if that would be, it is kind of intuition, but I think that's more of just, you've done something so much, so many repetitions that when you see, it could even just be like an inkling of, it could be a facial expression. It could be such a minor thing that your brain just in
pattern recognition.
Yeah, it's pattern. It's like, oh, this guy's gonna do this, and then it's like, boom. So that's kind of like the intuition. And here's the thing: your intuition can be developed, just like your skill can be developed. So I could see how that. I could see that argument of like, oh, it's not really intuition; it's just this. But I don't necessarily think that they're separate, right?
Right. They're in the same realm. They're in the same realm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like, obviously, if you're practicing something over and over again, your intuition about that subject is going to be way better than not practicing at all, right?
Like a baseball player hitting a curveball or something like that.
Yeah. Exactly. So
okay. All right. I love this stuff. This is so cool. All right, so let's talk about like bringing it to the personal development stuff, because I saw one of your videos, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's one of my favorite books. It's one of the all-time bestsellers. It's basically the first place where I started to understand the subconscious mind and how that controls your actions, and then your conscious mind, which is your awake. And if you say to your subconscious mind something enough, make it believe, the subconscious mind will then start to believe it, and then it'll take over your actions, and you'll become those things. Like I want to become a millionaire. You tell yourself over and over. You have a video where the title is Affirmations Don't Work, Hypnosis Works, something along those lines. And I was watching some of it, but it seemed pretty similar. You were talking about the difference about saying you don't want to lie to your subconscious mind because your subconscious mind won't believe you. Talk on that a little bit and talk about how someone might use this for personal development.
Yeah. So our subconscious mind is like the truth teller. So when you are telling a lie, a little voice in your head that's like, lying, or no,
and that's like not scientifically true, right? The subconscious mind controls your actions, and it's a fact.
Yeah. There's no debating that.
Right.
So, when that inner voice, or maybe it's a feeling for certain people,
Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, if you're telling yourself something that you don't believe, your subconscious mind will reject it as a suggestion. So if you're saying, I am a millionaire, and you're not, it's not going to believe it. And then it's actually going to reject that suggestion, which can then in turn make it worse, because it's almost like, man, I'm doing all these affirmations. I'm saying this thing over and over again, but it's not working. It's not whatever it is, right? So when you create a affirmation, it has to be something that's believable. So I forgot who I picked up on this from. I think it was Erickson, one of the hypnotists. He was talking about how he worked with I think it was a guy that did shot put or something. And he goes, look, if I tell this guy he's going to throw the shot put like an extra 5 feet than he normally does, his subconscious isn't going to take it on as a suggestion. But if I say, hey, you can throw that shot put 1 extra inch, his subconscious is like, I can do that. I think you can actually, if you could throw it 1 inch, you could throw it 2 inches. If you could throw it 2 inches, you could throw it 3. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, you can throw it a whole other foot, right? But if he goes from where he's at to 5 more feet, it may not be believable. So when you give yourself suggestions, the best way to do it is to say something that is believable. So let's say you're not a millionaire and you want to be a millionaire. Rather than telling yourself, I am a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, you could say something along the lines of, and this doesn't matter how much money you have. You could have $2 in your bank account, $200,000 in your bank account, doesn't matter. You can say something along the lines of, I am becoming a millionaire, or I am working towards becoming a millionaire. And then if you want to go even more specific, you could put dates in there. But those dates, again, have to be believable, because if not,
yes,
it'll create the doubt, it'll create resistance,
right.
and then we won't believe it. And then when we have doubt and resistance, that creates anxiety, which creates procrastination, then we don't do anything.
Yes.
So the best way to do affirmations, a lot of times, like where affirmations come from, it comes from really, really highly successful people who've been doing something for a really long time. And they almost forget about what they did 20 years ago, right? So it's like, the way I explain it to people is sometimes, I do jiu-jitsu, right? Sometimes if you have like a really high level black belt explaining something to a bunch of new people, it could completely go over their heads because they're so far advanced. They almost expect you to know all the little minute details that you don't know.
Right? I've dealt with that issue in my own world. Yeah.
Where it's like, oh my God.
It's almost like the teaching skills. You have to put yourself in their shoes, but yeah.
Exactly right. You got to put yourself in their shoes. So sometimes the best teacher for like a beginner is somebody that's, a little bit further along than them. They know what it's like, so they can kind of speak on their level. So it's the same thing with a lot of like affirmation stuff. Is those people are speaking, but they forgot what their strategy was 20 years ago when they were first starting, when they were just trying to make whatever, 50 grand a year or 100 grand a year or whatever. And then they built on that. Right. So if you're, it's the same thing with, if you want to lose weight, I'm skinny and in shape. I'm skinny and in shape. Your mind is not going to take that on as a suggestion. But if you say, I am getting in shape and I am exercising and doing the things that I need to do.
They believe that. Subconscious mind believes that.
It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if you're 300 pounds, just by you saying that is a true statement. So then your subconscious mind will go, okay, yeah, we
starts
can
take on those traits and put it into your, So you're saying, instead of saying I am a millionaire, say I'm working on becoming a millionaire, and feed your subconscious mind.
Focus on it.
Yeah. Because Think and Grow Rich definitely talks a lot about dates, and they say the more specific you can get, the better. I will make $300,000 by being a bartender in New York City by October 31st, 2028. Like, the more specific, the better. But then they also talk about in Think and Grow Rich, I don't know if they say to tell yourself the truth, but it's more about envisioning. It's about, okay, you want to have this nice house. Just sit there and imagine what it feels like to pull into your driveway and have, with your beautiful car and your beautiful home, and like, what does it smell like? What do the trees look like? Does that fit your version?
Which part? Which part?
The difference between the affirmations and the steps with saying I'm working on. Yeah, well, let's throw out the dates. I'm saying the difference between just words from the prefrontal cortex to your subconscious mind. Words are one way, but the other way is like visions and not necessarily saying I'm a millionaire, but closing your eyes and imagining your home, imagining you open up your wellsfargo.com, you log in, you see the bank account, imagining the feeling of your mouse, your finger on the mouse, and the smell of the trees in the fall.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that work? Yeah.
So here's the thing. If you're visualizing something and it feels good, then you keep doing it. If you're visualizing something and it makes you feel bad, not because obviously having all that would be great, but if somebody starts visualizing that and they start telling themselves, man, this is never going to happen. This is unrealistic. This isn't real. They could visualize it all they want. If they feel bad when they're visualizing, what's going to happen is their subconscious mind is going to associate that whatever they're visualizing with something negative, and something that's creating negative feelings. And what do you naturally want to do if something's going to make you feel bad? If you're going to a party where somebody's there that to make you feel bad, you ain't going to go. You know what I mean?
Right. So, like, if you associate that thought with a negative feeling, that's going to be a rejection.
Exactly. So that's why, like, years ago, it's funny. I would watch those like Lifestyle, The Rich and Famous, or whatever. And you watch like these dudes, I got $100 million yacht. I got a, $20,000 home. And you're watching it. And I remember this guy pointing this out after, but when I was listening to this guy talk about that, I was like, oh my God, it's so funny. Every time I would watch those shows, it would just make me feel so bad inside, because I was like, I'm never going to have this. That's that's out of the realm of possibility. $100 million yacht. Like, okay, you got to be worth billions of dollars to be able to afford it. Now, everybody's different. Maybe somebody else who's in the same exact predicament I'm in can visualize that and they feel good, then
And believe
by all
it.
means do it. But as soon as it starts to make you feel bad, then you want to get out and focus.
Gotcha. You don't want to make a negative association with this thought to your subconscious mind.
Positive association. Yeah. So as far as dates and everything, I agree with that wholeheartedly. The thing is, though, when you create that goal or the vision of what you want it to be within your sweet spot. So the sweet spot is on a scale of 1 to 10, you're not your ego and your conscious mind where it's like, it's a 10, I'll make $10 million this year, 10, 10, 10. But like your true belief deep down inside, when it believes on like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, that's where your sweet spot is. So if you have like you said, I want to make $100 or $300,000 by October of next year, if that's in that person's sweet spot where they believe it, the majority of them believes it, there's a little bit of doubt, then you're good. But if it starts to drop too low, like a 5 or a 4,
I like that.
It creates the doubt and the anxiety. And again, if we feel doubt and anxiety about something, we naturally don't want to do, we won't want to take the steps necessary to do that. Now,
I like that.
If it's a 10 and it's too easy, then it's not going to get somebody like that burning desire to really want to achieve it. So it's good to have a little bit of doubt, because that little bit of doubt, the little bit of doubt is there because it's the unknown, right? Like, what are the steps? What are the little pieces I got to put together to make it happen? So when there's that little bit of doubt, that is sort of like a motivator to get people to want
it's a positive emotion.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what's your belief you're going to make $100,000 this year? And it's like, okay, 10. That doesn't even get me excited. Right. So if it's too easy, then you want to either lower the time frame or increase the goal. So it's like, $100,000 in a year, okay, that's a 10. $100,000 in 6 months, okay, that's a 10. $100,000 in 3 months, okay, that's a 10. How about $100,000 in 1 month? That's like a 6.5. Okay. How about $100,000 in 2 months? That's like a 7.5. How about $100,000 in 2 months and 2 weeks? That's an 8. Okay, boom, there's your sweet spot.
That's the sweet spot. Then you want to leave a little room to stretch, because this is supposed to improve you.
Yep.
So that's where the improvement comes from. And if it's a bad feeling to say, I'm going to make $1 million tomorrow, not do it, then your subconscious mind isn't going to believe in this whole process.
And then you're it's almost worse doing that than not doing it at all, because you're just bad. You know what I mean? It's like teaching somebody something and you taught them the whole wrong way to do it. They're better off just not even knowing at all. You know what I mean? So totally. So
I like that. That's really good, because I'm really into this stuff. And that sweet spot analogy makes a lot of sense.
The sweet spot is where it's at, man. Like, I've used that for myself. That's how I've had a pretty good amount of success in a short amount of time. Don't get me wrong, there's people that probably had more, and there's all the spectrum. But when I first started, I didn't have a goal of doing this within 2 weeks. I literally had zero belief that I could charge for my services and that I could do this as a career. And my original goal, my sweet spot was after I got out of the hypnosis training, that 6 months I'd be able to do it. Right. And then I took massive action within the first week. I worked with like 45, 50 people. So all of a sudden my confidence grew, right? Those pieces are coming together. So I was like, you know what, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I could do this in 3 months. And then the next week, the second week I was doing it, I worked with another 50 some people. And basically over the course of 2 weeks, it was over 100 people that I worked with. And so my confidence grew so much that literally I took a 6-month goal and I shrunk it down and quit my insurance business within 2 weeks. Now, if you rewinded to the 2 weeks prior, the Monday that I got out of the course, and I said, okay, Dom, you are going to quit doing something you've been doing for over 10 years, and you're going to quit it. You're going to quit doing it in 2 weeks. You know what I would have told you? That is impossible. Zero.
Really?
Not only that, I had a kid on the way. Like I had to pay, I have bills I got to pay, right? So I had zero belief, but because I kept it within that sweet spot, I was able to make it happen even shorter. So you can set the goal and then you can adjust it as you go. Right. Like,
and what if, so you were thinking about your level of from 1 to 10 and your goals. What about people who never think about that? What should they do? I mean, a lot of people, they maybe start a business and they're like, I'm going to try to do pretty good. Yeah. They don't really, and I'm guilty of that sometimes. I don't always have What is my goals and sales today for my business? I don't know, $12,000, but I do have month goals and yearly goals, but what if people if they're not thinking in this sense, what happens in that case? They just, whatever happens.
It doesn't mean that the goal won't happen, but it's going to take longer. So think of it like this. Okay. If we're in the middle of the ocean and we're just sailing and we're just going in a certain direction, like we're going to eventually get somewhere, right? We're going to find land, but who knows? But if you have a direct coordinate of that is exactly where I want to go. This is the, you want to go from wherever, California to Hawaii, rather than drifting around. Like you may eventually get to Hawaii, but if you have an exact focus, like laser focus, and again, what's the quickest way from point A to point B? It's just a straight line. So by having that clear cut goal and all the intention and attention behind it, it'll just make it happen at a rapid pace. But again, it doesn't mean they won't make money and be successful, but it's just going to take.
But that is why this tactic is for people who are high performers or trying to accomplish very difficult tasks, because it is to push to exceptionalness, to greatness. If you're just pretty talented and pretty good and you don't have a vision, you could have a pretty good life, but that's no one's going to write a book about your epic journey. It gives you that ability to do something incredibly difficult or accomplish something incredibly great. And that's why high performers and people looking for difficult things, this applies to. So if you're somebody who doesn't think in this sense at all, you're missing out.
You're just kind of going you're just
whatever happens.
Like a laser, right? You take a light and it'll be bright and everything, right? You can light up a path, but you take you hone in that light and you can literally start a fire with that same amount of light. So, if there's so many different ways you can think about it, but it's like, if you wanted to climb Mount Everest, but at the same time you had all these other goals and everything going on, you're not going to make it. The people that are doing that, their sole focus is that they train for it every single day. They know all the ins and outs that they got to do.
That's why it's perfect for a fighter, because that's their main focus from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed for months.
Exactly. They have and a lot of fighters will tell you, like, when I'm outside of camp, they don't really have a goal. They don't really have anything set in mind. But once they get that date, it's like all of a sudden everything just comes and they're just hyper focused on that one point. So that's how I go. Again, if you don't have specific goals, it doesn't mean you can't make money, you won't have success or whatever, but it's just going to take longer, It's
going to be less likely that you will accomplish greatness. And there's something about happiness where it's, if you set a goal and you reach it, it's very rewarding and fulfilling.
No, absolutely. Sorry, I had a.
It's all good. It's all good.
But Sean, man, let's do this again. I have another call to jump on right now. I'd love to keep chatting with you. We can go a little bit deeper. But yeah, let's do this. Do the little homework assignment.
I will.
Do the names. Watch Superhuman. Do the other stuff, and then maybe we could do another chat.
I'll reach out to you maybe on Instagram stories or something like that.
Yeah. We'll follow up and we can do like you know what? I watched this. This is what
Me and Pat are going to do that assignment right after this. We're going to write down the 5 names and then we'll keep you guys
can watch the movie together. Again, you'll watch it and be like, I don't know, seems a little unbelievable. But then, certain things will happen, synchronicities, coincidences, whatever you want to call them. And then you'll be like, this is
love it. Love it.
Real.
All right, Dom, before you go, tell everyone where they can find you.
It's just Dom the Hypnotist, pretty much on everything. YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. So yeah, just Dom the Hypnotist.
Okay.
You'll find me anywhere,
all right. So. We'll link it up. Thank you so much for talking. I love this conversation. So fascinating. Cool. You're a cool dude. And thanks so much for coming on.
Having me, Sean. Appreciate it, man.
Later, everyone.